unconscious right now. 20 points, 7 of 10 shooting, 4 of 6 beyond the arc.
It's time for Warriors Wrap-Up. We'll bring you into the locker room and hear from Coach Kerr and the players. Highlights from the game. Warriors Wrap-Up starts now.
Yeah, you heard Sam Roy. Klay Thompson shot the hell out of the basketball. Second highest output of the season, both ironically against the Utah Jazz. He had 35 in February. He has 32 tonight and helps the Warriors put it away. It would have just been an abominable Utah team as of late. They've lost 12 straight, but the Warriors get a necessary victory at Chase Center this evening, 118-110. Evan Giddings with you here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game, and that's just what you do to a team that has no intention of winning. The Warriors, I know it was an 8-point final score, but they pretty much cruised after jumping out to a double-digit lead early in this game. We're up at half by nearly 20 points, out by 20 going into the fourth quarter. And, of course, it shrinks a bit, but they just put them away without needing Stephen Curry, without needing even Draymond Green for the majority of that second half. They officially secured the 10 seed earlier today with Houston going down. They've lost 5 in a row. The Warriors also move above 500 at Chase Center, so likely no history upcoming this week because they were going to be at the rate that they were moving the second team in NBA history to have a losing home record but have a winning road record. That does not appear to be the case unless, of course, they drop the final 2 games of the regular season next week to the New Orleans Pelicans and the Utah Jazz. Even if they lose to the Pels, something tells me this Utah team is going to give them one a week from today, like they did tonight, again, by 8, 118-110. Warriors have 43 wins on the season, 1 win away from their season output last year, but still officially in 10th place. They've won 7 of 8. And, of course, tonight was pretty much a necessary victory, a business-like game against a very, very bad Utah Jazz team that sets up a tie-breaking game on Tuesday at Los Angeles. A loss on Tuesday all but means the 9 or 10 game is in the Warriors' future. In fact, if they win, it might be still there regardless. But a win against the Lakers, assuming that the Timberwolves take care of business in a game that is right now going on, they're up big on the Lakers. That win will keep the Warriors, if they beat the Lakers on Tuesday in Los Angeles, their dim hopes alive for the 7 and 8 game. So still everything in front of the Warriors with 4 to play, beginning with the Lakers on Tuesday. And then, of course, you get your final 3 games in Portland on Thursday, and then New Orleans and Utah. But this game here tonight, I think a couple of takeaways. Number one, you got to start with Klay Thompson. I think, to me, this was a game for Klay in which, and I talked about it before the game, I just thought it was going to be a Klay game. Number one, because Steph was out. You got an extra 20 shots that are available. Klay Thompson looked around the classroom saying, who wants it? Who wants it? I'll put my hand up. I will take as many shots as possible in this game if they need me to, and he did. He took 23 shots, made 12 of them across 28 minutes, hit 6 threes, had 32 points, was a plus 11, and was clearly the best offensive player on the floor in the starting unit because off the bench, Jonathan Kuminga came right back. And I'll be honest, he didn't skip a beat. A lot of people were concerned about Kuminga. Number one, I think the fragility of him being relegated to a bench role, which is something that I thought was going to happen regardless because they are preserving, and did again tonight, the tandem of Draymond at the 4 and TJD at the 5. But Kuminga didn't make a stink about it whatsoever. In fact, he took full advantage of his opportunity. I mean, he was explosive. He was bouncy, in the words of Steve Kerr. I thought he looked like a guy that picked up exactly where he left off after missing 6 straight games with knee tendonitis, bilateral knee tendonitis. I saw him warming up before the game here on the Chase Center court. He looked pretty normal. So I think that from a medical standpoint, Rick Celebrini and the staff were being precautionary about their 21-year-old, especially at this point in the season where you need him. Unlike last year, this is how far Jonathan Kuminga has come in my mind. Last year, it was in a situation where he was the filler. He was the stopgap for Andrew Wiggins. Now, while he is going to come off the bench, I believe, in the future, and I think projects as an ideal 6th man and first scorer off the bench in a play-in or hopefully postseason series, that means that last year he was not essential. This year, Jonathan Kuminga is absolutely essential if the Warriors are to reach their ceiling and go as far as they possibly can. We know now that Wiggins is going to start, and I think we know now that JK is going to come off the bench, but I also think that's ideal with how Kuminga looked tonight. The Jazz are a perfect team to kind of get his feet wet. He had 9 of 11 from the floor, had 21 points, 10 rebounds, even had 4 assists. He made a couple of really nice plays to extend possessions. In fact, there was actually back-to-back plays that him and Pods made on the baseline in the fourth quarter. At the 9:22 mark, Kuminga saves a ball in play off of a Utah Jazz member. Pods does the same thing on the baseline the ensuing inbounds, and then Kuminga ends up with a layup at the tail end of that possession. So JK just stepped right in, did exactly what the Warriors needed him to do, which is basically score for a team that was missing its leading scorer and help Klay Thompson to be the secondary guy against a very bad Utah Jazz team. And that is the equation that is going to be good enough to win. So Klay Thompson, I thought he was fantastic. Also had his fourth 30-point game of the season. Like I said, his season high is 35. It also came against the Jazz. I got a couple of nuggets on him in a moment, something I do want to get to. But Kuminga, most importantly, he looked physically right, which also, by the way, marks, for those of you wondering, if Kuminga could be the scorer off the bench consistently moving forward, but also in a postseason series, that was his 6th straight 20-point game off the bench. That matches Sarunas Marciulionis, to throw it back for Warriors fans out there, for such games in franchise history dating back to 77-78 when these starters began being recorded. So JK has had 6 straight 20-plus point games off of the bench, and he picks up right where he left off tonight against the Utah Jazz. Perhaps one thing, I guess, really my only concern from this game tonight might have been Draymond Green, who left in the second half with lower back tightness, but then he returned to the bench. He was just bandaged up. He looked like an older kind of veteran gladiator, a warrior. He had the heating pads on his knees, heating pad on his back. And, of course, I think that was also precautionary because I think he's going to be geared up to play on Tuesday. And the Warriors also just need certain games like these moving forward, not just also next Sunday, because I think they might be in a position where they want to rest some of their older guys going into a play-in game. But I think also moving forward next season, these are the kinds of games that they're also going to need, because I think, look, you look at Steph Curry and what he's done this season, which has been just from an age and physical standpoint remarkable. He's played his most games since 2018-19. By the end of this season, assuming he plays the last 4 games, he will have played his most minutes since his age 28 season. And I'm not sure we can expect that to continue next year, or for him to just play 75 games beyond the age of 36. So against bad teams, against teams like Utah, who have no intention of winning, in fact, they've lost now 12 in a row, the combination of Steph, perhaps even Klay and Draymond sometimes, moving forward have to be able to sit, and the Warriors still need to be able to win those games. Now, Klay played heavy minutes, well, not heavy minutes, but heavy enough minutes to get his numbers and to help the Warriors gain a large enough lead to put the Jazz away. But they basically did this tonight without Curry completely, but Draymond Green only played 21 minutes in this game. And, he was fine. He had a block, had a couple of steals, 3 assists, was a plus 6 in his 21 minutes. But they largely did this without him. So that's why the 4 youngsters in this game, we touched on Kuminga, but Trayce Jackson-Davis, Brandon Podziemski, and then even Moses Moody off the bench. Moody played 26 minutes in this game. I know he didn't shoot it particularly well, but he was a plus 16. He had 6 rebounds, one of which was offensive. Played enough defense on the Utah on the Utah Jazz. I'm trying to figure out what their G League name is, because the only 2 guys that are recognized on this team were Colin Sexton and Keontae George. I guess Johnny Juzang shot the ball pretty well. He went 7 of 8 from downtown. Shout out the UCLA Bruins. But Trayce Jackson-Davis in this game, 8 of 10, finishing primarily around the rim. Maybe most notably had 4 blocks in this basketball game. Podziemski inserted into the starting lineup, pretty much just taking what he's done off the bench. Sometimes he plays 30 minutes. Tonight he played 31 minutes. Sometimes he plays less, but he always typically does the same thing. 16, 7, and 6 for Pods tonight. And so I thought all of the youngsters showed both tonight against a bad Utah team, but also moving forward why they are important to keep either Steph fresh or Draymond, who didn't play the majority of the second half, fresh for a game like Tuesday that will matter. And I want to get to that in a moment because I do think that there are some decisions that need to be made about that rotation because I think we are going to see the Warriors. The Warriors told us tonight that they are gearing up for Tuesday in a multitude of ways, and it's very interesting to me to see how they approach that game. But the number is 888-957-9570. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors wrap-up here on 95.7 Game. Let's start the calls with one of our favorites. Drew Down is out in Tracy as always. Drew Down, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Hey, good evening, Evan. I thought the Warriors, they took care of business tonight. You know, the final score was 8. I thought that was a little cosmetic, you know, with the emptying of the benches late. Obviously, I was a little skeptical of the closing lineup they put out there with a Pod, CP, GP2, Moody, Loon. I thought it was a little offensively challenged, but they got stops and they pretty much salted the game away. So that was good to see. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, who cares? They played the Jazz. But you know what? Boo-hoo. I don't care. No Stephen, no Wiggs. Don't matter. They got the W. You know, Klay came out cooking like a Hell's Kitchen finale, so that was great to see. I love him. When Klay gets in the zone, there's few guys like him who get in the zone like Klay. So shout out Klay Thompson and obviously Trace Jackson Davis, man. 16 points, 7 boards, 4 blocks. He just continues his strong play. And then, Jonathan Kuminga, I think a lot of people, when they were winning without him, talking about, Trey JK, they play better without him. Man, 21 and 10, 4 assists, 9 of 11 from the floor. And kind of how you pointed out earlier with Rick Celebrini and their staff, they're notorious, for being a little extra cautious with injuries. They probably maybe had him out a game or two before he probably could have played. But long term, that's for the best for the players. So, guys like Guru can stop worrying about JK. Man, he looked just great tonight. And, whether he starts from off the bench, as long as he's, playing 25, 30 minutes, he just brings that dimension, the Warriors really need. I personally think the Steph, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, TJD is their best starting 5 at this point. But as long as he's getting 25, 30 minutes, I think that he's still a big part with what this team does. So, I thought Chris Paul and Pajemski played great. GP2, he was his normal pesky self on defense on the ball. So, good team win, especially without Steph. Anytime Steph doesn't play, it's always, a little bit of a concern, but Warriors did what they needed to do tonight, took care of a bad team. So they got a tough game on Tuesday against the Lakers. Hopefully Wiggins is ready to go. Wiggins is key. I'm hoping they just held them out precautionary against the Jazz. I hope Wiggins is ready to go, and I fully expect, Steph to be rested and ready to go. It sounds like AD got hurt tonight. I'm not sure if that's just temporary or not. AD notoriously gives the Warriors a lot of problems, so we'll see what happens. But, let's see if this team can, get a win. And I don't know about the AC, but at least maybe get to the 9 and, and have a home game for the play-in. So let's go Dubs, man. Thanks, Evan.
Thanks, Drew Down. Yeah, no, look, we are keeping close eyes on that Los Angeles-Minnesota game because, in all honesty, the win tonight was necessary for the Warriors, but it becomes a little more moot if the Lakers come back. Right now they're down 10 going into the fourth quarter against the Timberwolves. It becomes a little more moot if the Lakers win this game and come back against the Wolves, because the Warriors could beat them hypothetically on Tuesday and still be a game back, and the tiebreaker wouldn't mean much unless the Lakers give up some ground, which hypothetically could happen. The Warriors really only have one tough game left in their final 3 because you get Portland, New Orleans is at home on a back-to-back. That's the game you could fall in, and then Utah in the finale. I think a couple of things off of that. Number one, for those paying attention to the Lakers game, LeBron did not play tonight. So I think it was very interesting that both Curry and LeBron didn't play in games that both teams, would like to win. The Warriors obviously had an easier matchup. They're not playing a top 3 seed in Minnesota. But I think both teams were telling us everyone is staring down the barrel of Tuesday. And so even though it's a nice win, I'm not even going to say nice win, they beat a team that's lost 11 in a row. The Utah Jazz have no intention of winning basketball games. Go and check out Warriors Live for my rant about what's wrong with the NBA, it is in Utah and what Danny Ainge has done to completely tank that organization in hopes of getting a top 10 pick and a first-round pick this year. So that we'll just leave the Jazz there. The Warriors were going to win tonight. I didn't even want to think about them losing. If they did without Curry, we got bigger problems than that. But both teams, and this is kind of the question I want to throw out at 888-957-9570. How are you approaching Tuesday? How are you approaching that Lakers game? Because that's why, to me, Steph sat tonight. I mean, yes, he sat because it's a beatable opponent. Yes, he sat because he played heavy minutes on the tail end of a back-to-back in Houston and Dallas. But he's played heavy minutes in a back-to-back before. Heck, he played heavy minutes in a back-to-back the week before in Miami and then Orlando, and then played on that Friday. So I think that Steve Kerr wanted to make sure that his best player, and you could even say to some extent Draymond, who kind of rested the tail end of this game, got some built-in rest. Steph needed a game off, and this was the one that they had, yes, because it's the Jazz, but I think more so because they understand how important that Lakers game is. And he gave us a clue, Kerr did, before the game about why that is, when he said essentially, you know, the Mavericks' loss was a missed opportunity and shifted things in regards to how much they can chase play and positioning. I think the final chase game is Tuesday, and not Chase Center. The final chase game is Tuesday, because if the Warriors win that game, well, then they can try and grab, you know, the last three victories. If you end up going 5-0, well, then you actually have a legitimate shot to get to the 8. But if you lose on Tuesday, no matter how hard you play, how many minutes, this, that, and the rest, then you can kind of look at the final three games as, unless, of course, the Kings fall, which they did not tonight. They won by 30 against Brooklyn, and the Pelicans also beat the Suns. So you got no help there. But the Warriors can look at the final three games as either you rest guys, or depending on what other teams do, you can try and push. Maybe, you know, you rest Curry or Klay or Dre against Portland, but you go for it on Friday against the Pelicans. There's more flexibility to their strategy, all, of course, with the intention of being as fresh as possible heading into the play-in, no matter if you're in the 7-8 game or if you're in the 9-10 game. So that's, to me, why both Curry as well as LeBron also sat tonight for their respective teams. Both the Warriors and the Lakers have that Tuesday game penciled as the game to determine what the final three games are in regards to rest. So it's completely all about, in a way, tonight was, you know, a little bit of a wash. The Warriors did what they had to. I know they won by 8, but they're up by 20 in the second half. They didn't really care about that game tonight. Klay Thompson was out there to get his shots. It was all about the young dudes. I thought Kuminga had a perfect game. Get out there, you know, get your minutes, get your reps, make sure that your knee is fine, get up and down the court. He made some nice plays, was shooting it well. Everyone that was young, and even, actually, I do want to tip my cap, by the way, to the hardest worker of the game, by the way. Brought to you by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. If you're looking for a career in law enforcement, learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. The hardest worker in this game, it was Chris Paul. Chris Paul played 36 minutes against the Utah Jazz. I don't know if he'd ever thought he'd be in this situation where he's the guy that has to step up for a point guard that is sitting, but he played 36 minutes, had 12 points, 9 assists, 4 steals, also had 4 turnovers, but he was a plus 15 in a game that the Warriors basically said, you're going to get starting minutes, and then you're going to go back to playing probably 20 to 25 on Tuesday against LA. That was the third most minutes that Chris Paul has played this season, one of which, November 18th in Oklahoma City. That was an overtime game. And then the other one was a couple days before against Minnesota, also a game without Steph Curry. So Chris Paul has had to play a few games, heavy minutes, either because it's in and out of regulation or Curry's been out. He did that again tonight, and he was the hardest worker of the game just because look, Chris Paul's 38. He's got to play heavy minutes in a game that throughout the entirety of his career, he's probably resting for. So I do think that you got to tip the cap to Chris Paul in regards to the effort and the amount of minutes he played tonight because they needed him to with Stephen Curry out. All right, 888-957-9570 is the number. If you want to talk about this game tonight, the Warriors won 118-110 against the Jazz. If you want to comment on Klay, comment on Kuminga, comment on any part of this game, we are taking your calls. But I think also, to me, looking ahead, how are you approaching that Los Angeles Lakers game? Are you going all out? Who's in that 8 or 9-man rotation? I have some thoughts on that I'll get to after we get down to San Jose and bring on Jose. Jose, what's going on? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Evan Giddings on 95.7 The Game. How are you?
What's going on, man? Just came back from that Warriors win. After that, went to the game,
Sweet.
But I just want to talk about Kuminga coming off the bench and, how they're going to move forward with that. Who's going to come off the bench and going to give Moody more minutes or something.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jose. No, look, Kuminga was fantastic, and that's exactly what you want to see. I mean, you want J.K. to come in, feel comfortable, get right back into a rhythm, because, and I know we made a lot about it, Dan Devone and I were talking about this yesterday on Warriors This Week. It's not a Wiggins versus Kuminga decision. Now, the Warriors had won 6 in a row, 5 of which without J.K. That doesn't mean they're better without him. Now, that means that they found something without him in their starting lineup because I think Trayce Jackson-Davis allows Draymond to be the best version of himself. And Wiggins, when he's playing consistently, might play a little bit better without J.K. on the floor to start because he is able to build a rhythm. And I think he's much more of a rhythm player than even Kuminga is. When Kuminga's out there, he's going to get the ball. It's going to be a little more sticky, and so that doesn't allow Wiggins to get going. So the starting lineup, I think Kerr is correct in not reinserting Kuminga. And even though that front line of J.K., Wiggins, and Draymond rattled off 14 of 18 games in February, they found something on the defensive end. And I think that's always been the path to me to reaching their potential as a group. On the defensive side of the floor, if they're locked in, everything else will take care of itself offensively. And so to start games, I agree that Trayce needs to play at center and Draymond needs to be at the 4. That means you have to choose between Wiggins and Kuminga. I said all this week, I thought Kuminga is better suited to come off the bench because he's much more of an instant offense player at this point in his career than Wiggins is. Also, Wiggins, I think, is just more of a rhythm guy that has to be in the flow of things. Otherwise, he gets a little foggy. I think he gets lost a little bit. And that's, to me, what would happen if you brought him off of the bench instead of Kuminga. And I don't think they can start together because then you don't have enough spacing on the floor, so Klay needs to be in there, and that's neither here nor there. The point is, right now, looking at Tuesday, I think we're going to get Steve Kerr's play-in rotation. And I think that rotation is also what we saw a little the last time the Warriors were in L.A. The difference is Pods, I think, was starting that night. Now you're going to see Curry, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. The 3 or 4 off the bench are Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and I think if there is a 9th man in that rotation, it's Gary Payton II. Not to say that Moses Moody or Kevon Looney, and Jose, you mentioned Moody, I thought he was pretty good tonight, and he had to play big minutes with Wiggins out. Not that Moody can't help you, and not that Looney can't help you, but I think those are 2 players that are stay-ready type of guys that are available if others get into foul trouble. Say Trayce has some trouble with Anthony Davis, who, to Drew Down's point, yes, he left this game tonight against the Timberwolves after being poked in the eye, which weirdly enough was the injury that forced him to leave in the first quarter, at the tail end of the first quarter, the last time that they played the Warriors. So I don't know if they need to get this guy some Kareem Abdul-Jabbar goggles or what. By the way, I was watching Airplane last night. Kareem is hilarious in that movie. What's your vector, Victor? But the 8.5-man rotation is Curry, Klay, Wiggins, Dre, TJD, CP3, Kuminga, Podziemski, and then GP2 with me, the 9th man. That means Looney and Moody are the odd man out. And I know there's not a lot of capers for Looney at this point, but Moses Moody, to me, is the guy that people might be disappointed in not seeing on Tuesday, but unfortunately it's just a numbers game, and I think that's how we got to get going. All right, let's get out to Shanat in San Jose here on Warriors Wrap-Up before we got to hit a break. Shanat, what do you got? You're on 95.7 The Game. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. No, I was just curious because I was watching the Warriors game, and anytime Steve Kerr comes out with the three-guard lineups, I just want to know what other people think who are watching the game as well. Like what is his approach towards it? Is it maybe to like get some ball movement, kill clock? Because a lot of times when I see them out there, they're really passive.
Yeah, no, Shanat, I think that's interesting. I want to dig into that on the other side because I also know Steve Kerr talked after the game and might have revealed a little bit about what you're asking. So let's step aside for a moment. Be back after this break. Evan Giddings on Warriors Wrap-Up. 888-957-9570 is the number if you want to comment on that. If you want to comment how the Warriors are going to approach the Tuesday game in Los Angeles, we are taking your calls. If you'd like to talk about how Klay Thompson was, how Jonathan Kuminga looked coming back after a 6-game absence, we're taking all the chatter from here until we are done tonight. I see you on the Comcast Business text line. We'll read your text on the other side as well. But we're going to step aside, be back, hit the phone lines, 888-957-9570. Evan Giddings back on Warriors Wrap-Up after this on 95.7 The Game.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens.
stops and pops another three for Klay Thompson. 5 of 7 from distance.
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Tim Roy on the call right there for the Warriors' 118-110 victory at Chase Center tonight. They are a 43-win basketball team, officially the 10 seed, but still 2 games behind the Los Angeles Lakers as well as the Sacramento Kings. The Kings won earlier tonight against Brooklyn. The Pelicans also 3 games up on the Warriors, 1 against the Suns. Lakers are amidst a game that right now is looking like it's going to go to Minnesota, which means we are set up for a showdown in LA, in Tinseltown, in Hollywood on Tuesday, and a game for the tiebreaker, which in all likelihood could decide where the 9-10 game is going to be hosted. Is it going to be at Staples or now Crypto.com Arena, or will it be at Chase Center? I'm not so sure, but Tuesday will have big implications on that as the Warriors have a chance to win the tiebreaker against the Lakers on Tuesday. They sat Steph Curry tonight, the Warriors did. The Lakers sat LeBron James. I think it all comes down to both teams aiming at that Tuesday game to determine what they feel like chasing over their final 3 affairs. The Warriors got the Blazers in front of them, the Pelicans, as well as the Jazz a week from today when the regular season concludes and the play-in and then 2024 NBA playoffs are able to get underway. But my name is Evan Giddings. This is Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. Before we get to Steve Kerr, I do want to get back out to the phone lines, 888-957-9570 from the Comcast Business Text line. I'm with you, 949. Warriors didn't mess around with a bad Utah team tonight and punch them in the mouth like they should. I know they won by 8, but they're up by as many as 20 in that second half. From the 2-1-9, this was the Warriors basketball dominating a subpar team at home, even with Curry out. Bring on the Fakers next. They will, and I'm sure the Lakers are going to be well rested because, again, LeBron James did not play tonight. But before we get to Kerr, let's get out to Berkeley, talk to our guy Shaka. Shaka, what's up, my man? You're on 95.7 The Game. How are you?
What's good, Evan? How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, Shaka?
I'm blessed by the best, man. I want to talk about all the doom and gloom they giving all the Warrior fans, man, because, you know, we've been so good for so long, a dynasty. So a lot of the odds makers and everybody betting against us, man. But I was thinking today, man, with that emergence of that center at pick 57, I think 57, man, that guy is good and he got hot. And he's real good, and he can't help but get better around a bunch of Hall of Famers, man. So look at and along with Kuminga coming up. I mean, a veteran would love to come to play, but with Curry, a veteran, Klay coming off the bench, a veteran would love to get on this Warriors team. So I just want to say that, man, we looking up spirits. We got a great team.
I'm with you, Shaka. Great points there. I do agree. Trace Jackson-Davis has been a revelation as a second-round pick for the Warriors. Pajemski has also been really good as a 17th overall pick. Mike Dunleavy Jr. hit his first draft as GM absolutely out of the park. And I think that's also a big reason why we saw J.K. come off the bench tonight is because of Trace Jackson-Davis and his impact on the defensive end. I mean, tonight against the Jazz, for whatever you make of it, he had 4 blocks. And I think over the last 6 games, or, well, I guess the last 8 games, they've won 7 of 8. He at the 5, primarily alongside Dre, has done wonders for their defense. And then I think Kuminga bringing his scoring ability and just overall athleticism and juice and energy off the bench is what can make this Warriors team dangerous in both a play-in and hopefully postseason scenarios. So if you want to comment on that, 888-957-9570 is the number. Before I get into my thoughts about Klay Thompson, because there is something that's been kind of rattling around my brain that I think made sense with what he did tonight. 430-point game of the season, had 32, second from his highest output of the year. Also against the Jazz, 35, in which he scored in February. He has been very good since moving back into the starting lineup, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But before we do, let's hear from Steve Kerr, who spoke after the game, after the win.
What do you think of Kuminga in his first game back, and what kind of went into the decision to bring him off the bench?
Yeah, J.K. did a great job tonight. He looked bouncy and strong, and I watched him work out yesterday. He got a great workout in, and the decision to start Brandon was based on combinations with Steph out. And we want to keep starting Draymond and Trace for defensive reasons, and so it felt like a better combination if we started Brandon and brought Jonathan off the bench.
Yeah, you said there's a chance that Kuminga is on the bench. I mean, when you can sub in he and Moody and then Payton, do you like that kind of, I don't know, change of pace, the athleticism? You can just kind of change the game a little bit with those
yeah,
guys?
I mean, bringing Jonathan off the bench and watching him run the floor and attack the rim. That's a great dynamic to have off the bench. But we have to see when Steph is back. We've got to find exactly how we want to do this, because we really felt good about JK starting for about 30 straight games with Draymond at the 5. But given what's happened over the last couple weeks, I want to keep starting Trace. So if JK's coming off the bench and he plays the way he did tonight, then great. So we'll figure it out.
Steve, how much did Klay getting in an early rhythm really give you guys some momentum that sort of carried things?
He was amazing. I thought early on the ball was moving well, and he hit some tough shots too, but he got some open ones. And second quarter, not quite the same. We didn't move the ball as well, but Klay's shot making really helped us get that lead.
I think you played Chris Paul 35 minutes. Was that the plan, or was it just going well?
No, I wanted to play him the first maybe 3 minutes of the fourth quarter and keep him around 29 or 30. But they won the first 6 minutes of the quarter, 18-10, with Klay and Chris on the floor. So the plan was to extend the lead with those guys, get them off, get them rest. But at that point, it's a 12-point game where I'm not taking them out. So Chris played a little more than I wanted him to play, but he said he was fine. He felt great.
Yeah, it was Steve Kerr after the 118-110 win against the Jazz tonight. 6 out of the last 7 for the Warriors. Sets up what in all likelihood is going to be a 9-10 matchup with the Lakers. Who's getting the tiebreaker? Will it be the Warriors? They're going to need to win again in Los Angeles. But either way, it sets up a big game on Tuesday at Crypto.com Arena because of the Warriors' necessary victory. Kerr said they might have had to play the veterans a little bit too much. Chris Paul specifically, who put a minute load on his back, 36 total minutes in the game tonight with Stephen Curry out, but it was necessary for the Warriors to do that to get this win and then move forward on Tuesday. Before we dig into Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr's comments on him, I do want to get out to Harrison if he's still there. Sterling, do we have Harrison? You're on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, what's up, guys? Just coming home from the Chase Center for the first time, man. I just wanted to say it was a great environment. It was nice to see them get a win, but I was just curious to see what your guys' take was on Tuesday, man. What matchups you guys are expecting, or what has worked in the past that you want to see happen, or what can we play?
Thanks, sir. Yeah.
What we can capitalize on.
I got you. Sorry, you're kind of drowning out there, Harrison, but point taken. Yeah, I'm with you. And Comcast Business text line is right there alongside you. 626. Warriors win and Lakers lose to Minnesota. Sets up a massive game on Tuesday night. This is kind of the question I threw out before. How you feel like Steve Kerr is going to approach this game. 888-957-9570. To me, I think with Kuminga coming off the bench, Kerr tipped his hand a bit as to what that 8-man rotation or 8.5-man rotation is going to look like. I think it's going to be Curry, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Trace Jackson-Davis, the starting 5. CP3 and Kuminga are the first 2 off the bench, and then Brandon Podziemski is the 8th man, with Gary Payton II being the 9th. I think that means Kevon Looney and most notably Moses Moody are out of the rotation unless things play out. Wiggins isn't great. Maybe Trace Jackson-Davis gets into foul trouble, or Draymond. I think those are the 2 guys, the 2 swing players as the 10th and 11th men that are just via the numbers game on the outside looking into that rotation. I'm interested to see how the Warriors match up against the Lakers with Trace at the 5. Remember, when they played them each of their last 2 times, one of which was a double overtime thriller here at Chase Center. Very close game, came down to the wire. And then they won in Los Angeles after AD got poked in the eye and had to miss the rest of that game after the beginning of the second quarter, I think it was. TJD wasn't at the 5 in that game. And the Lakers have been known to punish the Warriors because of their lack of size or their inability to play two bigs on the floor at the same time. I thought Kevon Looney last year in the postseason got played off the floor, but Trace is a different kind of cat. And so how will Draymond, along with TJD, pair against a Lakers team that is bigger than them and has posed matchup problems for the Warriors both this season as well as in the past? I think that Trace as a lob threat won't allow AD to play as much center field. Like, if you remember correctly, the last time they played them, and I just want to make sure I get my date right. Yeah, March 16th, the Warriors won 128-121. In that first quarter, the Warriors had, I think, four paint points, and the Lakers outscored them basically, 36-30. They got most of their shots from the perimeter because AD was either a deterrent, he was contesting, or he was blocking shots. And then once he went out, the paint and the lane just absolutely opened for the Warriors and actually won the paint battle in lopsided fashion over the last three quarters. So Trace Jackson-Davis, to me, can keep AD from not just being a guy that can, essentially remain long and lengthy in the lane. He's going to have to choose either to stick with Trace or play up on Draymond, who can, be the pick and roll man to lob the TJD. There are going to be more decisions inside the lane that AD is going to have to be able to make. And whether he makes the correct decisions, he's a hell of a defender. So even though he left this game against the Timberwolves earlier, I think he also got poked in the eye, ironically, but he'll probably be back Tuesday. And I do think that TJD at the 5 poses a few more issues for Los Angeles than we've seen in the past. And I'm curious now that the Warriors can play a bit bigger with their starting 5, how that poses a threat to the Lakers. But that doesn't mean that, for example, Kuminga is not going to play a big role in that game. We saw him tonight. He had 21 and 10, had 4 assists, was good in his first game back off of missing 6. But I also think that Kuminga and the Warriors in general, their closing 5, whether it's against the Lakers or a play-in team, I don't know, the Pelicans, Kings, whoever, their closing 5 is going to include Draymond at the 5 because Trace Jackson-Davis is not a great free throw shooter. I don't think he can play down the stretch of games. So TJD is going to be off the floor. I think that means it's Curry, Klay, and this is where the Wiggins-Kuminga pairing being able to work, as Kerr mentioned, for the better part of 30 games when JK was starting, that's where it comes to fruition. That's where it comes into importance and into play. Kuminga and Wiggins and Draymond, I think, are the front line of the Warriors' closing lineup in ideally a close game and a winnable game on Tuesday, as well as in the play-in. So I think what we saw tonight is Kerr essentially setting the table for the starting 5 we've seen during the 6-game win streak and the 6 of the last 7, outside of tonight. But when Curry and everyone else is at full strength, I think the closing lineup includes Kuminga and excludes TJD. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my gut feeling along with having read what the Warriors typically do in these kinds of small ball, maybe death light lineup situations. They want to get as many wings on the floor as possible, and to me that has to include Jonathan Kuminga with his explosive ability. I think also his willingness to pass more now. We saw flashes of it tonight, but he's been doing it throughout the better part of this new year. His ability to move the ball, his willingness to move the ball and make an extra pass and not settle for distance and perimeter looks, I think that's a big part of why he's also going to be in the closing lineup. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors Wrap-Up. And I think the other thing that I wanted to hit on tonight, Kerr's comments about Klay Thompson. So Klay had, big night, needed it. He was going to get his shots. It was Klay's game, right? Curry's out, second splash, brother, you're up. 28 minutes, he took 23 shots, scored 32 points, hit 6 threes. Klay, and he spoke about this after the game, I believe, has now played 74 games this season. And that is the most regular season games that he has played since suffering 2 catastrophic injuries. In fact, 74 games would be more games than he played in the 2018 season when he was in his prime at age 27. Klay Thompson might not be playing 35 minutes a night. He might not be in every single game the way he used to be. But he has been about as sturdy and reliable and durable as any member of the Warriors this season. And that's why it's been building for some time, and I guess I'll use tonight to explain why I believe that Thompson, he's going to get $25 million AAV from somebody. Klay Thompson was offered 2 years, $48 million this offseason by the Warriors. He declined it. That's $24 per year. He is going to get more than that per year from somebody. It might be from the Warriors. It might be from a team with cap space this summer. But someone is going to look at Klay Thompson. He's not the same player that he was before his injuries, but that doesn't mean he isn't still a damn good basketball player. And the reason why I think he's going to get 25 plus from someone is, I think it is going to be the Warriors, is because of games like tonight where he's proving that since he can fluctuate between roles. As a bench player this season, he's averaging nearly 20 points per game in 27 minutes on 46, 43, 96 splits. Since moving back into the starting lineup, when he's played, the Warriors are 5-1, including tonight. He's averaging 21 points per game in 30 minutes, and he's shooting now 40% from three-point range. So his adaptability, to me, makes him very valuable on the open market. Not having a contract and can play the free agency game, someone is going to give Klay Thompson multiple years at least $25 million a year. And I think the Warriors are going to be in on that, and they should be in on that because of games like tonight where he still proves that against a bad team without Curry, he can be the number one scorer. He can help you get necessary victories. It might not be a marquee win, but necessary wins to stack and, of course, moving towards a hopeful postseason berth. Klay Thompson is still valuable to this Warriors team. He can still get off when he needs to. 30 points, now his fourth game in which he's done that this season. Also had 35 earlier this year. I know that 25 might sound like a lot to a lot of people, but Klay Thompson is worth that. And a night like tonight just kind of put it into perspective for me. His willingness to move to the bench, to move back into the starting lineup, to remain durable, playing the most games he's played since age 28, as well as being someone that can not make us think about things. We were worried about the sensitivity of Klay Thompson. We were worried about him and his, coming to Jesus with what type of player he was going to be moving forward. All of that appears to be behind him. And while he's not a perfect player, while he's not the first-team all-defensive player he was before his injuries, while he's not the 42% to 43% three-point shooter he used to be, he is still a valuable scorer and a floor spacer for a team that needs perimeter shot makers and is devoid of them outside of Steph and now Klay. So I think Klay's going to get 25 from somebody. It's just a matter of who. I do think it is going to be the Golden State Warriors, and I think they're going to try as hard as they possibly can to retain him this summer. If the price tag becomes too high, if someone looks at 30 or more, they might not be able to make that number fit. But if they can come to a number, Klay and the Warriors, he's going to be in Golden State, I think, until the end of his career, or at least until the end of that next contract. So that's what I have to say about Klay Thompson. And I know that some people may not want to hear that type of number, but I just feel like Klay is still valuable for this team, and he's somebody that they're going to need down the stretch of this season, but especially in the play-in game if they are to get to the postseason. From the Comcast Business Text Line, 430, Dub Nation has taken over Crypto Arena in L.A. on Tuesday night for the Warriors to make a statement win over the Lakers. Again, in a play-in preview. I certainly hope so, because, again, if they win that tiebreaker right now, the Warriors are looking at a Lakers team that has one more game, or the Warriors have one more in the loss column. So, they need to win that game just to give themselves a chance to get to the 9. A win on Tuesday would not put the Warriors in the 9 seed affirmatively, but if they end up with the same record, of course, that has them on the inside track. So, the Lakers' schedule upcoming outside of the Warriors get Portland, New Orleans, Utah after Tuesday night. Meanwhile, the Lakers, looking ahead, have two games that are certainly, one of them is losable. I wouldn't say the Memphis game. Lakers only have 3 more games left, including Tuesday. At Memphis on Friday and at New Orleans. So if the Warriors win out, they are the 9 seed. They determine their 9-10 destiny from that standpoint. Meanwhile, they need a little bit of help from Sacramento if they'd like to jump to the 8, just because they do not own the tiebreaker against the Kings. The Pelicans is one that is, I think, still up in the air, though I do not believe that they would have the tiebreaker against the Pelicans because of Western Conference record. And the Warriors right now, if I just do a little bit of digging here before we get out of here, The Warriors have played the Pelicans. They did so earlier this year. They defeated them on October 30th. They lost to them on January 10th. And then actually, so they got their head-to-head game coming up. So I guess that actually would give them the tiebreaker. I apologize. So if the Warriors beat Los Angeles, they get the tiebreaker. If they win next Friday at home against the Pelicans, they also have the tiebreaker. But, of course, they need to hope that the Pelicans fall a little bit in order to make up some of that ground. But, again, all is in front of Golden State as they win their 6th of 7th here tonight against the Jazz. So let's see here. I don't think Sterling, I don't believe we have any more calls, so I think we're going to put a bow on this bad boy. I've gotten about as many takes off my chest as I need to. Clay's getting 25 from Sunday. Book that. Jonathan Kuminga is right back where he needs to be. Off the bench is an explosive scorer and the perfect offensive second unit option, as well as, again, closing lineup for the Warriors moving forward. Draymond avoids his injury. Steph Curry is well rested for Tuesday, but of course so is LeBron James. And the young guys also help you get a win that you needed to get. So all around a good game for Golden State. They beat an abominable Utah Jazz team by a final score of 118-110. They just take care of business despite losing the fourth quarter by 12. They put them away when they need to. And Klay Thompson leads the way with 32 points. J.K. had 21 and 10. Chris Paul played a game-high 36 minutes tonight. So we look forward to talking to you on Tuesday. Mark Grandy is going to have the rest of the regular season. I'm out next week with a prior job kind of. Well, I'll reveal that in the future, but I have an employment commitment that I made for next week. So I will be looking from afar, but I will be locked in with you, of course, for the play-in tournament. I look forward to that, as well as joining all of you down the stretch of this season on social media. I might even hop on the YouTube chat if I get a chance for Warriors Wrap-Up or Warriors Live on Tuesday. And then, of course, Thursday, Portland, Friday against the Pelicans, and then Sunday against the Jazz. But thank all of you. I will thank all of you who tuned in tonight. Everyone in our YouTube and Twitch chat, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Everyone who called in, we always appreciate the conversation. And I look forward to also discussing it tomorrow, all day on 95.7 The Game. You got the morning roast from 6 to 10, Signing Guru 10 to 2, Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6. A big thank you to Sterling Bennett, our network coordinator. Big thank you to everyone in the back helping produce this bad boy, presenting sound for you, and putting all of this together live here from Chase Center. My name is Evan Giddings saying so long, where the Warriors again beat the Utah Jazz 118-110. We look forward to talking to you on Tuesday for a hopeful Warriors victory in Los Angeles. Tie-breaking implications on the line. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on 95.7 The Game, your home for Golden State Warriors basketball.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage